There we go. All right. So Experience Korea, Etiquette and Travel Tips by me, Laura McCluckey. I'm from BEFM and also with WellMe Wellness Solutions. So that's me. My name's Laura McCluckey. I am a broadcaster. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm a speaker like this. And I also am very involved in wellness tourism here in South Korea. And so I've been in Korea for 10 years now, over 10 years, my goodness. And so it's such a pleasure to be here today. Thank you to the BFIC team. And also big congratulations on hosting this amazing event. I'm very privileged, very honored to be here. So thank you so much. So if you're looking for information about Busan and you haven't already tuned into BEFM, Busan 영어 방송, then you must definitely give it a try. It's 90.5 FM in Busan metro area and 103.3 FM in Gijan, Cheongwan, and Noksan areas. My show is from 6 to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, and also on the weekends, 12 to 2 p.m. as well. Lots of updates about Busan, lots of news, events, stories about Busan, and yeah, it's your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about living here in beautiful Busan. A little bit about me over the past 8 years, I would say, since my son was born. I've been really heavily into wellness and well-being. So I'm a registered yoga teacher, also registered mindfulness meditation instructor. And my company goes all across Korea, creating wellness retreats or doing corporate wellness, corporate seminars in English, Korean, and Russian. So if you're interested and you want to open up another language there, let me know. You can let me know. So what we do is we want to bring more wellness to the community. Now, whether that's the international community or whether that's the workplace communities or just in general, you know, everybody here in Busan, everyone needs some wellness, right? So I'm going to move into the first part of our talk today, and let me, if I can move this across here. Let's see if I can move my window because I'm sharing this with you, but I want to also be able to see you guys. So what we're going to talk about today is etiquette in Korea. Now, I know that many of you are Korean, so please understand that I'm not trying to teach you how to live in your own country, not at all. What I would love to do is share some of my experiences. And for those of you who've maybe not been in Korea for that long, or perhaps you've been here for a while, but you're still not quite sure of the do's and don'ts, I'm hopefully going to shed some light based on my own experience. If you have anything that you'd like to mention, add, comment, please feel free anytime. So let's get into it. Etiquette in Korea. So first things first, it's really important before you go anywhere is to remember that if you're not in your home country, then you're not in your home country. And that means, it might sound very simple, but that means that you can expect things to be different. It's not to say that things are going to be difficult. It's not to say that it's going to be a huge culture change, but sometimes the smallest things are the most important things, and it's very easy to miss out on the small things if you just don't know about them. So first things first, check your mindset. There's a few things that I'm going to go through that are really important when it comes to living and working and being part of a community that is not your home culture. So point number one, study, learn, research, and try to understand the culture and society. Now, of course, if you don't speak the language, that can be a little bit difficult, but it's really helpful to get to know some of the local culture, some of the local areas. And before you travel, do a little bit of simple reading, neighbor search, Google search, super simple, or head into the Busan Global Center and they can help you out with anything you need to know about what it means to assimilate into Korean culture, because it's not easy. It's not easy, right? It's not easy. Second thing I want to say is, you know, despite our differences, what makes us so special is that we're so similar, regardless of where you were born, regardless of how you grew up. We're all pretty similar. We want the same things. We want safety, shelter, we want to have a sense of purpose, we want to be loved, we want to enjoy the company of other people. And that spans and transcends culture, ethnicity, identity, everything. So just remembering that common courtesy and good manners are always a way to just just get along in society regardless of where you're from. Another thing to remember is as well, a lot of the times, because if you are not from Korea, you're a foreigner. I don't really like that word, but you're a foreigner, which means you will not be expected to understand and know all the cultural norms and etiquette and everything like that. So remember that even if you do make these little small cultural mistakes, no one is going to be upset. But it's always good to know. It's always good to, have it in your mind and then pull it out when you need it. The most important thing when you're living in a place that is not your home country, in fact, anywhere in any situation, is the ability to adapt. You have to adapt, whether it's, adapting to a new workplace, language, adaptation is the only way for humans to really survive. So you got to be willing to move, you've got to be willing to change. And it's something that you can practice. A lot of people don't like to change. Myself included sometimes, myself included. Um, it's really important to be open-minded to new things. We can expect the unfamiliar. And like I said before, it's not to say we need to expect something very difficult, but expecting the unfamiliar is very important when it comes to living in a new culture. So, for example, when I first came to Korea, my Korean co-workers, all they wanted me to do was eat sannakji, which is the octopus, the baby octopus that has been chopped up and is still wriggling, because they wanted me to experience this very different, very unfamiliar side of Korean dining. So I tried it, of course, I tried it, and I tried something new, and it was very fun. I don't eat octopus now because they're very smart, and I think it's, personally, I don't want to eat octopus. But it's the point is, there's all these different things that perhaps you've never seen before. For me, Tagachi Market was just like, and still is, this amazing wonderland. So be open to that. Just try not to be judgmental. Just because it's unfamiliar to you doesn't mean it's wrong, right? Oh, there it is. Try not to be judgmental. Please, if I give you one thing today, it's, one person can be right and the other person can be right too, because everyone's different. And if we were all the same, how boring would that be? So accepting differences, celebrating differences in culture, and being curious and open-minded. Don't take life too seriously. The more serious you take it, the more serious it becomes, and you lose the joy in life. So, yeah, allow yourself to have fun, even in the hard times when you make mistakes, when you feel a little bit stressed, just don't take life too seriously. Most importantly, when you're in Korea, Korea has certain laws, rules, whether they're societal or, legal, as does everywhere. It's so important, so important to respect the rules and the laws of the local area that you're in and the country that you're in, of course, Korea. And it's very important for us as ambassadors of our own countries, right? We certainly don't want to be on the news for causing a ruckus doing something that we shouldn't be doing. So please do respect the laws, respect the cultural norms, and respect the people around you and the country that you're staying in. All right, let's start with the beginning. This is greetings. So, of course, in Korea, I mean, I'm from Scotland. So when I came to Korea and I was introduced to bowing culture, it was actually very exciting for me, and I still love it. I love a kumbeko binsa because I find it very, very respectful and completely different to how I was brought up. So when you greet someone, you don't have to bow. You know, handshakes are also used in Korea. But if you're greeting someone just casually, just nicely, a little dip of the head, a little eye lower, that's so polite. It is so polite, and it just makes the person who's next to you feel really good, you know? Obviously, if you're in a business setting, you can do a bit of a deeper bow, or your boss came in, you've got nice deep bow. Or handshakes are also good as well. People introduce themselves with a small bow, and the 인사, 안녕하십니까? 만나서 반갑습니다. It's nice to meet you. If we're looking at something which a lot of people ask me about, traveling on public transportation. Now, funnily enough, there's quite a lot of etiquette, like written down etiquette about this. But I'm just going to go through a few points on how to make your life much easier when you travel. First up, whenever you get on a bus or a subway, even if someone else is sitting in the reserved seating, so for example, the seating for elderly people, for those with disabilities, for pregnant people, even if someone else is sitting in there that you see doesn't need those seats, it doesn't mean that you should sit in those seats. You should just do what you think is the right thing to do. Because obviously when people get on the bus or the subway and they need those seats, they're going to have to sit down. So it's generally a rule that even if there's no other seats except those open seats on a subway, for example, you still wouldn't sit in them. You would just stand. You just stand. And these are not written rules. These are just like nunchi rules. These are unspoken rules that you just have to know about. Also, another thing, when you get into the subway, it's etiquette, I would say, if you're wearing a backpack, to bring it round and put it on your front so that you're creating more space for the people around you and for yourself. Also, you can see in that picture there's red lines, there's a little bit of red, and then there's the yellow line. Now, obviously, this tells you shouldn't walk past this line, but there's also arrows. Now, it's etiquette for people waiting to get on the subway. They should be waiting at the sides, and then the people who are going to get off, they will come out the middle, and then when they're finished, you can, come through into the subway through the sides. Sometimes people like to throw elbows. That's not etiquette. So try not to elbow anyone out the way if you're on the subway. That's not good. Same with things like drinks. People do not usually drink or eat on the subways. That's kind of like a big no-no. You will often, occasionally you'll see someone who's drinking a bottle of water, or maybe they have a coffee in their hand, but usually, especially because we have to wear masks, usually eating and drinking on public transportation is not allowed. Also, especially since the pandemic happened, talking on public transportation is kind of, something that people don't do. So you might find that if you're having a conversation with a coworker, a friend, on a bus or a subway, trains are different, but bus or subway, you might get a few uncomfortable stares like, shh, quiet, because people are uncomfortable. And that's also to do with the noise. That's not just because of COVID, but that's also the noise. Even though there's a lot of noisy people on transportation sometimes. But again, it's not about what other people are doing. It's about what we do as international residents, as foreign residents, as ambassadors for ourselves and for our, of course, for our respective countries. Oh, look at those happy faces. Yes. So that's the same when it comes to getting in an elevator. So this picture obviously was taken pre-pandemic, but getting in an elevator was something when I first came to Korea, I was so shocked because nobody talks. So it's kind of like one of these 눈치 etiquette. So it's unspoken etiquette, but you don't talk in elevators. And you'll often find as well that if children are in elevators, little kids, and they're, trying to speak to their mom, Amma, the mom will say, shh, because they're in the elevator. So this is especially uncomfortable for other people. If you go into an elevator and you're talking loudly with a friend, people will feel very uncomfortable that you're in there talking. So, pretty big rule when you're in an elevator, don't have a conversation. Don't start singing. Also, if you are in an elevator, always these days wear a mask, and it's always good manners to hold the elevator for someone who's trying to run in. So there's a little door open button. No talking in an elevator. Okay, this is a big one because, of course, Korean food is becoming more and more prevalent. It's becoming more and more popular all around the world. So people are actually starting to get not just into the food, but into the culture behind the food. So there's a few things that go with dining etiquette here in Korea. And you can see in that picture there, the girl right in the front, she has her hand on her chest. That's something I think specifically women do up here. Men might do it down here, but anyway, it's part of etiquette when you're moving things around. First up, if you're having a meal, especially if you are with a workplace or with elders or with seniors, you want to make sure that you start off saying 잘 먹겠습니다, which means I will eat well. 잘 먹겠습니다. If you don't speak Korean, then 잘 먹겠습니다, it means I will eat well. If you do speak Korean, 네, 됐습니다. This is a really beautiful way to just say that you're grateful for the meal and that you're going to really enjoy it, which is in Asian culture especially, that's a really big thing. So after you've done that, you should always let the eldest person at the table or the boss or the senior eat first. Now this goes back to way, back into the past with Confucian etiquette, Confucianist theory and meaning, and it's very much changing. It's very much changing. However, if you just want to be respectful, you would, offer or wait for the eldest person or the highest ranking person at the table to eat something. For drinking, and it's always good manners to offer to pour someone's glass for them. So two-handed 접시. I speak Korean a lot, so plate. There we go. If you have bowls, you have to carry them two-handed. If you're serving alcohol to someone, you want to just hold the wrist or hold the chest and pour. But you should always pour for someone else, and you should always let someone else pour for you. That's really important. If you're far away on a table and you can't reach to pour for someone else, or someone else pours their own, you can reach over and click. And that's a little trick that you can do. Also, it's really, really important while you're eating, you want to share the food. So making sure that you don't hoard anything, that you can see on the table there, the banchan or the side dishes are just spread out down the whole table. So in the West, we have our own plate, right? We have a plate with all our food and then we eat. Here, you take from other plates and then you put it in your smaller plate. So if you're at a table and there's a big pile of meat, don't pull that meat close to you. That's a no-no. Don't do that. It's for sharing. So just always remember sharing etiquette as well. It's really important. And then when you're finished your meal, 잘 먹었습니다. I ate well. So you're opening with thank you very much, I will eat well. And then you close, thank you very much, I ate well. Language. Okay, so if you don't speak Korean, my advice, go and learn some. And there are some fabulous classes at the Busan Global Center. You can also learn a lot from friends, but make sure that when you're learning language, that you're doing it in the correct way for the situation that you're going to be in the most. For example, in Korean, there are three ways that you can talk. There's 반말, which is between friends. There's also just normal language, and then there's 표준어. So it's basically honorific language, then just general Korean, which is very polite, and then you've got more impolite, so it's more casual. When you're learning, just make sure that you're learning so that you can be polite to people, because it's considered very rude to speak, for example, to your boss with the casual language. So language, again, that is connected to Confucianism. It's connected to the hierarchical system of age, respect, and position in society. So yes, always important to speak politely. And if you speak politely, people will be very impressed and they will also speak politely to you. But most of the time, Koreans use very, very polite language. So it's a very good idea to mimic that and do the same. Finally, I want to move to clothing and fashion. Now, as you probably know, K-pop is huge all over the world, and K-pop has some pretty awesome and out there unique fashion choices. However, there's a few things that are important when it comes to just day-to-day fashion. So for example, if you have a really short skirt on, if you're someone who wears skirts, then that's probably okay. If you have a low-cut top on and, you know, shoulders showing, then, I mean, of course, in the West, we think that's okay, but there's more modesty expected when it comes to the clothes that you wear. Now, I know that in so many places around the world, this is a huge issue, and it's an issue that human rights activists are, you know, championing. Why does my dress make a difference? I'm not I'm not climbing that hill. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it still is an issue. So modesty is always key. Modesty is always the best way to go if you're looking to kind of follow Korean etiquette. Whether or not you think or I think that you should be allowed to wear whatever you want to wear, that's not what I'm getting at here. The point is, this is, you know, Korean society, and for a lot of the places that you will go, whether it's a workplace, etc., clothing is very important. So always modesty, modesty, modesty. Okay, I'm going to stop here and open it up for any questions or comments. If anyone would like to ask a question or a comment, you are more than welcome to do so about etiquette. And if not, then I'll move on to traveling in Korea and in Busan. So if anyone would like to ask a question in this little metaverse room. No? All right. Then I will move along. Okay. So we're moving into travel tips now. I'm so excited about travel tips because my my old radio show at BEFM was called On the Road Busan, and it was all about traveling here in Busan. I also adore traveling, especially here in Busan. And I think probably over the 10 years that I've been here, I've been to quite a number of places. So not only do I love it personally, but I also worked in it for a long time. I still work in it. I work quite a lot with the BTO and the KTO. And I also studied wellness tourism. I just finished my master's in wellness tourism. So I'm going to give you some tips about how to really enjoy traveling in Korea. And hopefully you're going to get some really good ideas because it's perfect weather to go out and enjoy. But again, we've got to check our mindset when it comes to traveling as well. All right. So your mindset really determines the kind of time that you're going to have. So if something really negative happens, but you have a very positive mindset, then you're going to probably not see that as so much of an issue. If you've got a really negative mindset and just, maybe it just starts to rain, then that could really ruin your whole experience just because of the way that you're feeling that day or the way your mindset is that day. So check your mindset. Again, study, learn, research where you want to go, what you want to do. You've got to have a sense of adventure because there is nothing more exciting than just finding a fantastic hidden gem, of which Busan has many, many, or perhaps going across, I don't know, overseas and just discovering something new, a new culture, new language, new people. You've got to adapt as well because, in fact, in Korea, in Busan, public transportation is wonderful. I'm thinking about Scotland, Scottish public transportation, not so much. So anyway, you've still got to be able to adapt. Again, be open-minded, don't judge, don't take life or getting lost too seriously. And remember, you can always ask for help and respect the laws and the rules, social or otherwise. If there is a sign that says do not cross, then don't cross it. It doesn't matter if you need to send a selfie to your 100,000 followers. Don't cross it. There's a lot of natural heritages in Korea. There's a lot of very important areas that you need to just remember that you can't go into. And it can be difficult knowing that, especially if signs are in Korean. So if there's a sign and a barrier, don't go there. Okay, before you travel, some very important information here. The official Visit Korea website is www.visitkorea.or.kr. That has many different languages, so you can go and check that. You can also call from in-country 1330, which is a travel helpline and also complaint center. You can also log a complaint online if you want to, or you can call from overseas as well. So if you are overseas at the moment, you can call 822-1330. If you are already in country and you need assistance travel-wise, police 112, fire and ambulance 119, oh, I'm sorry, that just changed there. 182 is missing persons and stolen vehicles. 1339 is the Korea Center for Disease Control, and that's the international helpline. And then 1345 is for immigration, and they also have a translation service over there as well. So those are probably the most important numbers that you'll need. Take a note of them, and you can find them very easily with any kind of Google search as well. All right, experience Korea, travel tips. There's so much in Korea to experience. There's nightlife, there's culture, there's history, there's fashion, there's food. And one of my favorite things to preach to people is that if you want to really experience a place, if you want to really understand a culture, if you want to understand a country, then you need to get to know the people. The rise of the K-wave or the Korean wave, Hallyu, Korean culture and heritage has been wonderful because it's meant that Korean tourism destinations these days are more appealing to travelers, which is great for us in country, but also it's wonderful because that means that more contents are being developed. There's domestic and international tourism content. So of course, because we have things like the metaverse, YouTube, we've got websites, Lanson Tour, which is an interactive virtual tour, we can connect with people all across the world. And people are so interested, of course, Squid Game, BTS, lots of different K-dramas, etc. Asia, and specifically Korea, is kind of the hottest thing on the planet just now. So people want to travel here. People want to travel when you're already here. And so there's lots more contents being developed. What I'm going to talk about today more is local destinations and unique contents, because we're in Busan. And like I said, if you want to really understand a country or understand a culture, you need to know the people. So you need to have the local experience. The local experience is so important. That can help us understand the Korean language better. It can help us celebrate local dialect culture. And dialect is something that makes Busan specifically so unique, and it's just such a beautiful dialect. And of course, specialties in cuisine. If we're in Busan, what we can think of, 돼지국밥, of course, pork rice soup, 밀면, so we've got noodles, 동네 파전, getting hungry thinking about it. So there's lots of really delicious food that we can experience that is local to Busan. Okay, so I'm going to go into the local experience. So what does that mean? The local experience is tourism that has a positive impact on the neighborhood or the district that you visit. So not only are you enjoying it, but also it's good for the location that you're in. It means that money stays with the locals. So instead of going to a huge supermarket in the middle of the city, you're going to a local mart that is run by a grandfather, for example, who's been there for 50 years, and he's seen so many generations of people come and go. So that's the local experience, giving back to that local economy and spending time interacting with the local person. It also creates jobs for the local population. It's very important, of course, economically wise. And as Busan is a super aging society, this is something that the government is really looking at and trying to reverse at the moment. So being able to have the local tourism experience allows us not just to help ourselves and just discover this amazing place, but also it really helps the city as well. Local experience is something that you can also consider as helping to protect or preserve the environment. So, for example, going to a place and doing something good while you're there, going up the mountain and while you're up there, picking up some trash. That can also be described as part of the local experience. You get expert knowledge from expert local guides, which is wonderful. And if you've ever been to Toryangdong and gone on the Ibagugil, which is it's a storytelling trail of downtown, the old downtown of Busan, is wonderful because you get guides who are grandmothers and grandfathers who can tell you real stories about when they were young. And this is the information that you are going to miss if you go just on a general tour. It's so exciting to go to big places. The cinema center, amazing. Going to the Hendae Beach, amazing. But when you get into the local culture and you really learn about the lives of people and you learn about how difficult someone's life was or how beautiful someone's life was, that's what makes a place memorable. And that's what makes you want to come back. And also, the local experience is an experience that not only preserves culture, so people are learning culturally rich histories or doing experiences, activities that are culturally very significant, but also it celebrates that culture. So we can share that with our friends and family when we go home. So greetings from beautiful Busan, South Korea. Now, Busan is an international tourism city. It's the first international tourism city in Korea. It was designated on January 28th, 2020, right at the peak of the pandemic, which put us off at a very difficult position as a tourism destination. However, the Ministry of Culture, Sport and Tourism has decided or dedicated 150 billion won up until 2024 into turning Busan into a truly global and international tourism city. So that includes brand strategies, local content, local resources, infrastructure, and there's so many different projects going on. Specifically, one that's very exciting, the 7 Bridge project. So 7 bridges, 7 beaches, so you can go and celebrate all the beaches and the bridges in Busan. So my not best recommendation, but I don't want to say not best, but one of the best recommendations I have is for you to get onto the Visit Busan website. Visit Busan website is visitbusan.net. It is a wonderful resource, not only for seeing all the different things that Busan has to offer, but because Busan is a place where so many activities are going on, and that gives you a little insight into the different places that you can visit, local places perhaps you haven't been. So I'm going to play you this video. This was one of the promotional videos that I was involved in for Busan. So let's take a listen, and I hope you enjoy.
Colour for me as a photographer is incredibly important. It's bold, it's vibrant, colour makes everything come alive.
Busan is an absolute photographer's dream. The mountains, the ocean, architecture, colour. It's magical. We're here, this is Jakarta Fish Market. This is the place where you get the real face of Korea. Look at that, look at the colour.
The fish market is incredible. Everything from the octopus to the red snapper. It's crazy, isn't it?
No matter where you go across the city, you'll find festivals, exhibitions and events going on. Must see Museum. You're walking into a different world. 80 million LED lights, and there's some really fantastic artists who collaborated on this, and it is unbelievable. Art plays such a huge role in the lives of Busan citizens. It's all about making life beautiful. You see, like Gamcheon Village, it's just colour everywhere.
The palette here is incredible turquoise. It's mixed with yellows, greens, sensory visual overload in the most amazing way.
You've created this living art piece that changed the whole area into a very famous tourist attraction. You walk down the street, you go into a store and you do some crafts. It's a fantastic treasure trove of discovery.
Very special moment to get framed and go on my wall. Oh guys, sit still.
There's a saying in Korean, 살아있네, which means alive, and Busan is really alive. Busan is a city that is going to leave a mark on your heart, and you're going to take a piece of it when you leave.
Busan is such a vibrant place, it's a feel-good place, and I absolutely adored it. Thank you, Busan!
Oh, I love that so much. And that just showcases a tiny, tiny bit of all the gorgeous things that Busan has to offer. And the local experience is so important because, as you saw in the video there, the local fish market, the local village, the culture village, where you have local artists there. This is something that you can't experience if you don't look for that local experience. There's also lots of international tourism events that give local experience opportunities. For example, the Busan International Wellness Conference. This is an international conference and they have speakers from all over the world. However, they also offer a local experience program where they run wellness tours, which of course you may know that I'm very heavily involved in, but it's all at local areas that aren't usually advertised in, you know, the big magazines or on your CNN or, you know, National Geographic. These are places that are so beautiful and just pristine. But if you don't find that local guide, then perhaps you're going to miss these little gems. So what's happening now with many big events and many bloggers, many influencers, many organizations as well, and of course, including BFIC and the Busan Tourism Organization, Korea Tourism Organization, they're really promoting these lesser known areas. and organizing contents around them that will bring more people into Busan, of course, to enjoy Busan, but spread them out so that there's no saturation because we're still worried about COVID-19, but also to allow people to experience a different side of Busan. My dog's trying to come in. My next tip for you would be go to Bexco. Now, Bexco is a phenomenal venue. They host, just hundreds of events throughout the year. And again, because of COVID-19, the number of events was dramatically reduced. However, it's starting to pick up now, and especially Korea's response to COVID-19 and Busan's response to COVID-19 is at the point now where it's almost like clockwork that these, precautions and procedures are already in place. So that allows us, the enjoyer, the participator, the participant even, to really enjoy these different events. Of course, G-Star is Asia's biggest gaming conference. You can see that it's a global MICE platform, MICE being meetings, incentives, conventions, and exhibitions. And Busan is the perfect place for MICE coupled with the local experience. And so when you go to Bexco, you can experience these massive shows, these festivals, and at the same time, it's got such a local touch because you're seeing local vendors from all around Busan, whether it's art, whether it's food, coffee, pets, weddings, lots and lots of local vendors, people who live and work and have grown up in Busan all in the one place. And that's really special. It's really special. So how do we really enjoy local tourism contents in Busan? Because if you don't know where to go, then how do you know where to go? Well, first up, just go somewhere to an area and walk around. You can also do a sub crawl, which is where you get on one line of the subway and then get off at every stop and then go and do something in that area. Or you can get back on to visitbusan.net. Now, you see here in this screen capture, these are just some of the contents that are created that are now on the visitbusan.net website, where you can go and book these experiences. So you can see there, Hanji Love. That's so sweet. That's so cute. And hanji is, of course, the traditional Korean paper. So that is a very, very old cultural heritage. And yeah, you can just go and experience it in a one-day class. Bomosa Temple Stay, that's the local, and Bomosa, of course, one of the biggest and most famous temples in Busan, also in Korea, I would say. There's cooking cars, there's cable car, there's cooking classes, cable cars, 10 Busan tourist souvenirs, and these are all local produced contents and products that are really fun. Over here, we can see these other ones that kind of get you out a little bit more into nature. But down the bottom right, for example, Choryang Iba Gugil, Yesterday's Memories. That is just so special. It's so unique. So my tip to you would be get onto the Visit Busan website, visitbusan.net. Look through all of these fantastic contents and find something that normally you wouldn't do. So for example, if you're really into surfing, why not try a cooking class? Or if you're really into cooking, why not try like hanji paper making or a temple stay? It's by going through these wonderful local programs that we can really understand Busan and really understand the people and really appreciate how much we have here in this gorgeous city. So I'm sure you've all seen this before. I'm not going to play it for you because it's a bit long, but this is one of the ways that Busan went viral across the world. You can see down here, 52,493,985 views of July in 2020. And since then, that has surpassed that number by a lot. Busan is a city that everyone is looking towards. And as we now move towards the race for the Busan 2030 World Expo, it's even more important for us as people who live here, as people who are interested in Busan, as people who love Busan, to be ambassadors for Busan, to be able to share these contents with our friends and family across the world, to spread the word about Korean culture, about what beautiful resources we have here, the mountains and the ocean, of course, the food, delicious, the language, the talent, and all the other things that make Busan such a unique and magical place. I would hope that everybody does get a chance to share something they love about Busan. And yeah, let's bring the 2030 World Expo to Busan, because it's going to be a fantastic time for all of us. And it's only in 9 years, and that seems like a long time, but it's probably going to go faster. So I ask you, go and experience Busan, and please invite your friends and family to do the same. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to stop here. It's been lovely chatting with you.